Hey everyone, welcome to the FFL Solidity team call. Today is October 6, 2022. We are officially going into week 2 of 4 for the month of October, so super excited about that. And we do have a very special guest on with us today, Jack Yu of FFL Financial. If you haven't heard of Jack Yu before, you should look him up on YouTube because he's taught me a whole lot, not only face-to-face, but also just from YouTube trainings, videos, and his experience. So I'm really excited to just be able to kind of lean in with Jack, talk a little bit about his experience thus far in the industry and here at Family First Life and what his group's doing. They're helping over 2,000 families a month, which is absolutely amazing, and running it up. So Jack, thank you so much for being on with us today. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you. Thanks, Marissa, for having me. I appreciate everything you and Christina do. I'm excited to see the growth of Solidity. It's amazing, and I'm just thankful to be here today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on. And just to kind of hit the call off, Jack, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you were doing before insurance and what kind of got you to Family First Life.
You sure you want to know?
Oh, yeah.
Funny story. So, it was about 14 years ago I got involved in life insurance. Before that, I was fortunate enough. I went to school, I graduated, I worked in accounting. I did get a CPA 100 years ago. I did that for a couple of years, and then I moved into sales. I was a director of sales and marketing for a cruise company overseas for over 14 years. And that was a pretty exciting job. Being in the travel industry, I did get to travel a lot, meet wholesalers, and and it was pretty an exciting lifestyle. But then that company changed hands, and I was in a bind. I was like, what do I do? So I went back to New York, which is where my family's from. I was like, okay, I'm going to help out. I'm going to make things better, and I think I only made things worse. So I was wasting time and money, and I was like, I got to get out of here. So I came back to California, which is where I went to school.
Oh, what's going on?
And I had like a friend or two left, and I was sleeping on my buddy's couch. And it was 2008. So if some of you remember, that was a recession, and it was really hard to find a job. So I couldn't find a job. I was searching and searching and searching. I just couldn't find a job. So that's how I got into life insurance. My good buddy, whose couch I was sleeping on, he was his girlfriend was a top producer at this insurance company. So I said, okay, I've got to get something. I got to do something. So that's how I got into life insurance. And I think like most of us, we come from different backgrounds, and I think that's definitely, the saving grace, the beauty of this industry. Pros and cons. There's no barrier to entry. Even I could join. So I got my license. I did my time at this one company. I was there for a year. In fact, I think we came from the same company originally, right? You guys. And it's very good people. I met some really good people, and it was an interesting time, challenging time. In the end, it just wasn't working out for me, so I left. A couple years down the road, I found a job. Things were good. The pay was good, but the boss was a real jerk, and it was a really hard job. It was B2B sales, so I was like, going from business to business up and down here in Los Angeles, up and down the street, trying to sell sorts of digital media to various businesses. So very time consuming, a lot of door knocking, and I didn't see it going beyond 6 figures. And the boss was giving me an offer, so I was like, I got to get out of here. So that's when I found Andrew and Paul. Exciting story. And how did I get involved? Well, I guess I really didn't like my job at all, and I was looking for a change, and I had my license already. And the thing that really caught my attention, and this was a couple of years before we were down at the Family First Life, was the opportunity to work in Leeds. And then when we came here and formed Family First Life, that's when it really took off. So that was a game-changing moment in my career. I was able to grab leads. Even when we first started, it was totally different. Now we have the CRM, we have multiple vendors, we have leads in every county, in every state. Paige and I were going through it. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but like just Texas alone, I think there's 254 counties in one state, and every single county has leads in it. So it's amazing to see what Sean has done to progress the opportunity, to make it viable for agents all over the country. But at first, we only had one lead vendor, and we had one carrier, which is Americo, and the lead vendor burned to the ground. And even with all that happening, the leads were way better than anything I'd ever experienced before. We were calling on like 2, 3 year old leads, but they were fantastic, and we got the job done. And that's how we got started here. Good stuff, yeah.
Awesome. I love that. So coming in, you had your trials and triumphs, so to say, but you got through them all. And I love that you exited the industry and then you came back into it, because I think that sometimes people can be tainted by their previous experience to the point that they won't even look at it. I know Christina was also an example of that. So I think it's great to see that you gave it another shot, because you saw that FFL had things that the other company didn't necessarily offer, right? So absolutely. So coming into the business, here at Family First Life, I feel like we talk a little bit about breakthrough moments, right? And there's only a couple of breakthrough moments that you're really gonna have and feel throughout your career, right? And when you came into the business here at Family First Life, you tell some stories about, essentially you weren't the best on the phones at the beginning. You didn't necessarily fully believe in the leads, right?
Oh, yeah.
But what breakthrough moment happened that you started to believe in yourself and also in the system, in the company?
Absolutely. That's a really good one. So yes, I did get back in insurance. Thought I was crazy, coming back in. But obviously I was still that desperate. But I came with all the wrong attitude. I came and I was doubtful because I spent a year somewhere else. It didn't work out. I was, skeptical. I was like, I don't know about this, but there I was giving it a shot. But there was a couple things that helped me and challenged me at the same time. With that attitude, I doubted everything from the leads to the phone script, and I'd be very vocal about it too. We'd have a dial team. I'd walk in and be like, hey, what's wrong with these leads? So I had to be corrected. So that was some of the initial changing turning points for me. It was like, I would walk into a meeting, dial team, everybody's on the phone, and I'd hear people going, perfect, 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 all over the place. And I go into, for example, Paul McLean, I model a lot of my business after him and say, hey, what's wrong with these leads, man? He goes, I don't know. Let's take a look at them. They look fine to me. He's got a sense of humor, right? So he goes, give me here. He started calling on them, and I had been calling on these leads for a while, and he just started booking them one after the other. I was like, all right, wise guy, I get your point. Just little instrumental things. And I think that was one of the first breakthroughs. And I think that's the most important part of how we strategize training here at Family First Life, right? It's more of a top-down approach. Most of the companies I've ever worked at, the first step is to get dressed up in a suit, go to an office and spend 2, 3 weeks studying product training. And I'm not saying that doesn't work. I'm just saying that here we're all 1099, right? And most of us that come, we came because we need to get paid yesterday, So I think Family First Life is strategized such that people can hit the ground running, grab a simple half-page phone script and start getting on the phone, start booking appointments. Because the sooner we can sell something, the sooner we're going to feel the money in our pocket, we can reinvest it in our business, and then we have the confidence and the understanding, like, how do you do an e-app? How do I quote a numerical price? You get all this on-the-job training. So that was really integral for me, right? So that was actually one of the major breakthroughs I had, was like, finally I started to make instrumental, like bite-sized steps forwards when it came to like dealing with objections on the phone, right? At first, I didn't even realize half the time I was saying to people, I'm coming over. I'm coming over. Hey, Christina, I'm coming over. Hey, I'm coming over. My job about the life insurance, I'm coming over. And people are like, what? And I didn't even realize it. I had to have somebody point it out to me. Andrew actually pointed to me and goes, hey, dude, did you realize every time you call somebody, you say you're coming over? That's kind of weird. That's kind of creepy. I was like, I do not do that. He goes, yes, you do. No, you don't. Yes, you do. No, you don't. We were bickering like little kids. I was like, no, I don't. So he goes, okay, make it dial. So I started picking up the phone. I started, hey, this is Jack. I'm calling about the final expense insurance. My job's come over. Oh man, I did it. Didn't even realize it. We're so busy running around in the heat of things, trying to get the job done. And sometimes we veer off course just 1 or 2 degrees and turn around. You ended up in Spain or something, you're going the wrong way completely, and that's just the way it goes. So that's why it's very important to see course correction early on, and to plug in. But that was that. So for me, it's all about phone script. You hear top producers say that, when it comes to training, 70% phone script, 20% presentation, and 10% product knowledge. That's not to say that we don't want to understand our products. We do. Eventually, we all want to be proficient at this craft, right? And you're going to know the difference. Oh, this one takes COPD, and this one has no high weight in chart, and this one is doing diabetes, and this one's not. Eventually, we're all going to know that. But in the meantime, we need to start getting paid quick, right? So that's why that model is put there for a reason. So as soon as I was able to get, incremental successes, little wins, they started adding up. I was like, oh man, so that gentleman just said he wasn't interested, but I was still able to book it, right? Because there's a list of objections, right? And I practiced them. I said, I want to practice these. And I looked at them, I was like, are you serious? But I started practicing them, and people were like, I'm not interested. And I knew, I knew how to counter it on a timely basis. I'm like, perfect. Is it because it's too expensive, or you think you wouldn't qualify? I gotta keep the conversation going, right? Somebody says, look, I took care of it already. I'm like, perfect. I'm sure like most people, you want to shop around, get the best protection for your family. All right, it's a 5-minute phone call. So I got good at handling objections. And I was like, hey, that person said, call me back later. And normally my comfort level would be like, sure, yeah, yes, sir. What time? 5 o'clock, and 5 o'clock rolls around and I'm calling him like I'm supposed to 3-4 times in a row. And he's still at the office looking at his phone like, who is this crazy guy Jack? He just won't stop calling me, and block you, or worse, will cuss you out, So it's very important that we understand the psychology behind the half-page phone script and a couple few objections in order. So that was the incremental push for me. I was like, okay, when somebody's not interested, I say this. When they say call back later, I say that. I started booking appointments. And funny story. So I started, I'd have the old school, I'd print everything out. And I still do to this day. And I'd take little notes on it. So I start putting little happy faces, sad faces. You're bored, you call people 3 times a day. And when people were mean to me, I put sad faces, And then it was strange because after a while, when I started getting better and better with the phone, I noticed the number of appointments I had with happy faces were just as many as the ones I had with sad faces. But I was still able to meet them and help them. But they, when I call them up, they'd have a sad face. And I'm like, oh no, not their face. No, they don't know the lead. They're like, oh, you're one of those sad faces. Here's another funny thing. So a year goes by, and things are moving. I'm getting consistent. I'm getting better every day. And then the number of cases that, because I'm going back to my current clients, trying to set up more appointments to help them out again, get back in touch with them, follow up with them, build a client for life. And I noticed the number of people that stuck versus the number of people that quit. There's no rhyme or reason. At 1 year, most of them had sad faces, the people that actually stayed on the books. So you really can't judge, who's going to be a good client or who's not a good client just by how they react to you on the telephone. Now is a real big game changer.
Absolutely. And a lot of that's really eye-opening because I really do always think it's like these small little things that happen or that we change that actually change our business, right? Like Jack, you talked about, Paul picked your leads up and he dialed them and he was booking and you were like, okay, never mind, man. I'll take those back, right?
Yeah.
But it opened your eyes to, hey, these do work. And then Andrew saying, hey, do you realize you're saying, I'm coming over, right? And then you hearing yourself say it and course correcting. There's only so many objections we can really get over the phone, right? So you started with these small little, tweaks and adjustments, and now look at your group. Like Jack, you train agents each and every day to be amazing on the phones and to build businesses. So it's just amazing to see how far you've come. And also just like that little bit of practice, right? If every agent on this call, including myself, reviewed one phone objection that they got every single day, like just right before you hit the phones, you're going to do that much better. Even if you've been here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many years, it doesn't matter. But if you're that brand new agent, work on getting just a little bit better each day. Don't work on trying to digest the whole, in-home phones, product knowledge. That doesn't work, right? Like Jack is saying, that's why we don't get it started that way. focus on mastering one task and then being able to get comfortable saying things that you would have never said before because it actually makes sense. So I love that. That's really important. Mindset and coincide in belief, right? They're always going to coincide, right? Your mindset's not there, belief, and vice versa, right? Why is it important to you to make sure that you're speaking with people who are feeding your business versus starving your business?
Oh yeah, that's so true. I mean, you'll hear top producers all over the country say, "Hey, look, it's important to, surround yourself with the right people." And sometimes it's very surprising who is the right person for you at that time. Sometimes it's literally people that are right beside you that you spend all day with that might or might not be the best influence at that time. So it's very important to have me time. I don't necessarily, I mean, when I was younger, I hung out with all the wrong people, of course. But, there came a time when I had to, stop hanging out. But I mean, to enrich myself, I'm constantly trying to take advantage of all the resources that Family First Life has to offer. And that's the first thing. When it comes to work, you gotta feed your mind, every day, stay on the good foot. So we have podcasts and webinars and content coming out every day, from Paul's call to the True Talk to the Saturday call with Sean to the Friday, and we have our TNL, and then we have our own agency call. There's tons of content. After 8 years, we have libraries of stuff, and you can literally go to any of the YouTube channels and like literally Google by subject. You want to know about presentation? Search presentation. You want to know about phone scripts. You want to know about how to build a client for life. You want to know about how to deal with chargebacks. You want to know about, I literally, as a tool, like, so there's so many resources at hand. I literally, as a tool, type in Family First Life, and I have like people that would come to us that would join us from various industries. And that's beautiful. Like some people are construction workers, some people are nurses, and I can search Family First Life versus like by what the industry they came from, like nurse. And they're like, oh yeah, nurse that got tired of doing a job and broke her back, came here and did, XYZ number of families in a month. It's like you could search by, their industry. And I could literally take that, share it with somebody, So these are the kind of things that is very important, just making sure that you're in the right frame of mind to grow. I think a lot of it has to be surrounding yourself with positivity, and that's really important. I mean, some people actually take time in their day to exercise. I know you're a big fan. I can see you're a big fan of that. At first I'm like, yeah, really, I'm busy working. That was the kind of mindset that I grew up with. My family, they're all workaholics. None of them took the time to really keep fit or anything. Nowadays, I think it's very important that we stay well balanced, in our activities, and talk about everything from having good meals to exercise. It plays a part, And here's something I never really share with anybody. I have dreams, right, for a long time of finding a rewarding career, and it was hard. I went from one, after having what I thought was a career of a lifetime and having to go down the toilet, have to start all over again. I did jobs here and there and here and there, not intentionally. I didn't want to bounce around, but I always had dreams of, finding a career that was good for me, and with that was like, of course, I mean, it's not just a prestige, but that was part of it, something I'm proud of, something I like to do, something I enjoy doing, something's going to make money finally, I mean, real money, you know what I mean? Because I was used to making real money, and that was something that always kind of haunted me. But then, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is my work ethic going to come first, or am I going to wait for somebody to hand it? Nobody at my age, when I found Family First, nobody's going to offer me a multiple six-figure job doing anything. You know what I mean? So I had to reinvent myself, literally reinvent myself. And a lot of it had to do with, setting expectations for myself. You wanna make six figures this year? You want to do multiple six figures this year within a year or two? Do you want to hit these plateaus in your career again? Do you want this to happen? You're gonna have to start acting for what you want. Like I always had dreams of, I look at people like, Sean, like he's so built, right? I had dreams of like, yeah, maybe someday. What am I waiting for someday? Gym membership's $25 a month. Get your butt in there. So I literally, finally, I took it upon myself to go. And just take time, because we don't take enough time. I mean, if you're going to do something, let's do something productive. versus, you know, I used to sit around and watch sitcoms all the time. That didn't get me anywhere. You know, you want to be a top earner, you gotta like live the lifestyle of one, you know, and I think it's inclusive of everything from your expectations, what you need to expect from yourself, you know, and the people that you surround yourself, and, you know, everything from your daily lifestyle to, you know, how you carry yourself. So, and that's the beauty of Family First Life. It's really shaped, it really has shaped me in so many ways, you know. Learning how to posture yourself on the telephone with clients that don't want to talk to you is not the easiest thing. Because I think you and I alike, I mean, we're just raised with certain mannerisms, you know, when people tell you to take a walk, I'm like, okay, how far should I go? You know, what time would you like me to call you back, sir? You know, but that doesn't go very far, you know, so, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that that's huge, you know, being able to say like, I'm going to reinvent myself and it's up to me. Right. And I think that that goes for all of us. I mean, it's like, if I wanted to change career path today or anybody on this call did, well, we could all wake up and do that. Some people on the call, you did just change career path. You are reinventing yourself. So treat it that way. Like you said, Jack, you know, if you want to be here, act here. You know, you got to act it before you get in there. And, you know, do you want this to happen? I think that that's something I ask myself, and in a healthy paranoia, as Sean White would say, is, you know, like, do you want this to happen? Like, if you don't go to work today, do you want like, what's the repercussion, right? And that's helped me a lot through growing, you know, until now. And it still helps me each and every day just to stay aligned with myself, and knowing like, okay, I'm going to have this time designated here. So really scheduled, right? And then we talk about this business being predictable, Jack, right? In terms of numbers, things like that. What expectations do you set in terms of like predictability when you're bringing a new agent in?
Correct. So I think there's some definite guidelines, you know. One of the hardest conversations I've always had when talking to new agents or recruiting or building a team or finding partners is like telling people, hey, look, from our perspective, you need to spend money to make money. And the rule of thumb, of course, is spend $1,000 a week. And if you look at the commission structure of Family First Life, you literally have to sell one policy to break even. It's not difficult, but still, you know, I feel you. I know where you're coming from, and it's not natural to have to go out of your way and spend money to run a business. But if you want to perpetuate a six-figure business running leads, you need to have people to talk to, right? So for me, honestly, I still to this day, once in a while, I have a hard time telling people, hey, you need to go spend $1,000 because I know where they're at. I know where they're at. It's not easy. It's not easy to come up with money to pay the rent. It's not easy to make my car payment. And I have kids, and you know, and they cost money too. They have to eat a few times a day, I'm told. So these things are challenging. But this is, I mean, if somebody's going to be a success running leads, you know, you have to overcome the learning curve as quickly as possible. And one of the best ways you're going to do it is by investing in your business. So having that conversation is tough. So the thing that always brings me back to it is, again, why did I join this company? Half the reason I joined this company is because I knew I could get a hold of as many leads as I want. The other reason I joined was because, again, the people around me. If you look at Paul, you know, he's the first one to tell you he was pumping septic tanks with his dad, making $8 an hour when the minimum wage is that low. And Andrew was bagging groceries at this local supermarket. And I was already like washed up in my mid-40s trying to follow these two kids, and they're 20, 21 years old. What gave me the confidence, or at least the inkling to want to do that, was because they were so prudent. I was looking at it and I was like, look, you're 20 years old, you've been doing this for 2 years, you're already making multiple six-figure selling life insurance. You can't tell me you had money hanging off of trees. How did they come up with $1,000 every single week and make it work and have a viable lead strategy, and I can't? Oh, I could. And that's the kind of way I have to focus myself, is parlay it off of somebody else so I can, you know, and it gives me the confidence to actually tell people, like, this is how it's done, this is how they did it, this is how I'm doing it. And I've been doing it for a long time, you know, consistently. Another thing was, what is the ability to appreciate that? So, you know, it's exciting to know the scope of the opportunity, and there are top producers all over the country helping 20, 30, 40 families a month consistently. They're all over the place. and the information is, streaming live every day. But half the time it's just like, hey, look, you look at somebody and, you're brand new to the opportunity, look at them and say, hey, look, they can do it. Yeah, I could do it. If they can do it, I can do it. Let's be honest. That was half the thing that pushed me forward. I was like, look, these young guys, they got no experience, work experience, let's say, and they were able to manage it. So I was like, look, if they could do it, I can do it. These are the things that push me forward, right? So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that, we talked a little bit about that, that conversation of having to have with a new agent of, hey, you have to spend money to make money. And also, even above that, as a growing agent, when you're in that, that 10, 15, family mark where you're trying to hit maybe that 20 or 30 family mark, that's where it really kind of the rubber meets the road, right, Jack? Like that's when you realize that doubling down on leads is what's going to get you there. And it's going to actually get your income to be a lot higher than it was, not only because you're helping more families, but because now you're more invested, not only with your own money, but mentally, and you're thinking more about it. You're giving it more attention, by a default. And I think that it's huge that you brought up, like, if they can do it, I can do it. And I know we hear that all the time, but it's like, that's like right in your face, right? Like I felt the same way, Jack, when I walked into, the first insurance company, our practice company, right? I was like, if these people can do it, I got it, and same thing coming here. Everybody is different. Everybody comes from a different background. So there's no wrong background that you could come from, for this business really. And that's the beauty of it, is being able to take it and say, okay, if they're doing it, there's nothing that they have that I don't have, right? We all have access to everything. FFL is like a big open book, and not every company is like that at all, right? So being able to just look at them and say, they're doing it, I got this, let's just, move fast and break things.
Yeah.
And Jack, you talked about that learning curve, right? Like, what's the best thing that you think an agent can do to get that learning curve, moving up faster?
Yeah, good question. So again, when I share with people about where they're at with their business, I like to compartmentalize it and break it into 3 variables, right? So one, we just talked about is spending, how and where to spend, right? And when it's time to double down. The next is activity, right? How much time do you spend, of course, how do you build your schedules? I like to get on early, of course, traditionally Mondays and Thursdays have become the nation's dial days. But nowadays, I've always given myself a running head start. I have no problem getting on the phone a day or 2 in advance to get more appointments for the day out, right? And then a lot of automation nowadays. Like for the longest time, I was doing it manually, and now we're using the technology, the phone burner. It's amazing with these compliant leads, how much faster you can go. I had a conversation with an agent the other day, and I was like, okay, they came, they wanted just a little bit of course correction. They're asking about their business. Like, how can I improve? I was like, well, let's take a look at your schedule. And I don't want to micromanage, or I don't want it to take hours to try to go through every single number, but a roundabout, how many dollars you make in a day? Like, oh yeah, I make $200 a day. I was like, okay, you using the technology, you using a phone burner? Like, yeah. Okay, so immediately I was like, look, so how many hours did you shut it off for? Let's be serious here. If you got the thing running and rolling, you can't help but make $600 a day plus if the thing is on all day. So if you made $200 a day with an auto dialer, you intentionally turned it off to go do something else. It's like, something, you're right. So efficiency is very important, and if you can take advantage of stuff like the technology that we have now to keep the activity going, and then jumping on a couple days early, it really can help. So I've always, especially like I like to walk into Mondays. Me personally, I like to walk into Mondays packed. So traditionally, when back in the day, I'd be like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday on the phone, all 3 days on the phone to try to set up Monday. So I'm ready to go. Give yourself a running head start. Right.
Absolutely.
The other thing I want to, oh yeah.
Go ahead.
The other thing I want to,
three.
thank you, dear. Yeah, I just want to touch on the other one. The third part is your skill set. The third part is your skill set. So that's what we talked about, things like the phone, right? And that's why I think the phone script is so incrementally important, because that's the first connection with the client. That's where they're either going to tell you to take a walk, right? Or are you going to book an appointment? One or the other. And literally people can be, people can be convinced to have an appointment, even though their initial, you know, spoken words like, hey, I'm not interested. Hey, call me back later. That's because they don't know you, they don't trust you, and we sound like telemarketers half the time. So if you can get successful at dealing with a couple of objections, you're going to get more appointments, and that's going to be very powerful stuff, And as soon as you start booking appointments with people that typically want to tell you to take a walk, that's when, like I shared with you, the first thing you get is like, whoa, I was actually able to book that one. And then it's like, in your mind, you're like, yes. It's like incremental wins. Like every time you book one that you weren't supposed to book, you're like, yes, feels really good. And that translates directly into more appointments. And the more appointments you have, the more sits you have. So it's really important to focus on that. Once you get good at that, then you're going to start getting better at realizing exactly where you are in each appointment, right? You have people say, hey, look, we need to think about it. Hey, look, that's a lot of great information. Why don't you leave us a card? We never make a decision overnight, right? Or why do you need my bank account? All right. What do you need my social for? I used to always think, and it's a natural inclination, right? It's a natural intuition to think when somebody asks me a question, I'm here to service you. I'm here to service you. So I'm here to answer all your, questions. And I needed to justify everything somebody was saying to me. Now, that's not the goal. Our goal is not, of course, because we're all raised with that kind of etiquette and mannerisms to be like, the customer comes first. The customer's always right. Customer service. We're meant to believe that in this country, but in fact, we serve a higher purpose. After time, I realized our purpose is to make sure that when somebody dies, that we can help them to alleviate the financial tragedy that they're about to face, and there's nothing we can do about the emotional damage, nothing we can do about that, but we may have a small part or a big part to do with helping them out financially, and that's a big deal, right? If government forces us to have car insurance, they force us to have homeowners insurance. What about your wife and kids? What about your husband? What about them, right? So, but it's so important. So what we do is really important, but is it a priority? No, as is very well evidenced in my show ratio. Half the people I book appointments with aren't even there, and that's been the nature of it since the beginning. And I had a hard time wrapping my head around, like, what the hell is wrong with these people? It was either me taking it so personal, like they don't like me. He told me to take a walk. He said I was the fifth person that called him. He was pissed at me and never called again. I took it personally. Or, there's just like not being able to get to the root of the situation. So what I'm trying to say is, even when people set you off, you have to go forward and know how to handle objections and in a timely manner. And the goal of handling objections, whether it be I took care of it, I'm not interested, is not to justify the question. The people used to ask me, hey, what do you need my banking details for? And I'd be stumped. And I found that, well, because the carrier says, and I'd like start making up stuff. I'd be like a dog chasing my tail around in a circle. Like, because the carrier says, and then they need it in case of a draft. Oh, you said nothing about drafting. Nowadays I learn to stop out forest fires as quickly as possible. For example, somebody says, hey, what do you need my banking information for? I figured out the best way to handle it is just to make it a non-issue. I say, because they need to know I have a bank account. Some people don't have one. You're like, oh, I've got one. So literally, like people ask me, like, what do you need my social for? I used to say, well, because the life insurance carrier needs to know that if and I go around and around in circles and I talk myself into a big mess. Now I just say, that's how they identify you when you die. I'm like, oh, okay. Short and sweet,
Absolutely. And Jack, I love how you hit on those three things, because when you were out in Boston, you hit on those three things like that you should always focus on and really go back to, right? The spend, how and where are you spending and what are you spending? The activity and the skill set, right? Because in all three of those areas, we can all always improve, even if it's in a different part of the business, right? So I think that that's huge, because if we can make it that simplistic and look at it like, hey, we have these 3 areas. That's it. It makes it so much easier to take in, right? So I love that. And that's been really helpful for me, just gauging with new agents and saying like, hey, let's look at it in these 3 pillars. So thank you so much for that. And you know, Jack, realizing like, you know, the social security, the bank account, all that stuff, like you said, we're not there to justify it. I used to do the same thing. I would think, well, because the insurance company needs to link your driver's license to your banking information and your husband and like at the end, I'm like, that didn't even make sense. Versus saying like, because the insurance carrier needs it to process the application. Like,
Simple.
right?
Yeah.
Short, sweet, to the point, right? So I used to justify things as well. And I think it's almost like you said, human nature to do so. But realizing, hey, we're there to serve a lot higher of a purpose than why do you need my social security number? Because like you said, Jeff, we need it because that is how the insurance company identifies the individual when they should pass. Like if somebody told me that and I'm buying insurance, I'm gonna be like, okay, and here it is, right? So I think you make everything really simplistic and to the point, but you're able to tangible enough that you can go back and look at it. So I love that, Jack. So thank you for sharing. One last question I do want to ask you, just because I see you everywhere on social media. What's one step that everybody could take on this call today to utilize social media at a much more intentional level?
Perfect. You know, it's a great way to find people that perhaps want to, you know, get involved in insurance, join us, take advantage of all of the resources here. And that's something that's free, you know. So when you start recruiting and you want to use cold market resources, you can go out and spend money. I do. It's great. But at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that's free just to get the ball rolling. Okay. So number one is outreach, right? You want to build, you know, how are you going to build up your actual platform? You know, so say, how do you build up your social media presence, right? So you can do a post. You know, some people like to do reels. You know, a lot of people don't like to do reels, but they still do them, right? Another thing is you can literally grab content. There's so much content all over the place. Like Family First Life is having this meeting. Family First Life is going to hit 45 million in the month of. You know, Family First Life has got a lead discount. You can literally just grab and copy and paste those pieces and throw a picture of yourself in, like, hey, look at this, you know, and that content. So it's not even so much what you're saying as it is the consistency of it, right? That's what I've been taught, right? Having consistent rollout of social media tabs is going to build your presence. Then build up your fan base, whether it be adding friends on Facebook or Instagram, building followers. So following people can also get people to follow you. So that's another thing that's free. I literally would go into our group page on Facebook and just like everything that everybody's posting and add people. And that's just a way to build activity, right? So the third part is actually making the outreach part. So it's real simple. We have a formalized, very simple text. It's like, hey, Marissa, I noticed you're in the same industry. It's great to meet people, you know, doing the same thing. You free for a chat? That's it. One text, and I don't even have to type it. Just cut and paste it, and cut and paste it, cut and paste it, cut and paste it, and send it out to a gazillion people. And 99 of them are going to say, nah, no, I said, you know, and then, you know, 1 or 2 of them be like, yeah. And those are the people you talk to, right? But again, it starts with just having a simple presence so they know that, you know, you're all about what you do. You love your job, you know, and well, here's the interesting part. I didn't, you know, for the longest time, I was like, keep my social life out of it. But no, a little bit of your, you know, your entertainment stuff, you know, people, so they know, hey, she's a real person. She's having a good time. She loves her job. She loves her life. And that makes it a more well-balanced, you know, package. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's huge. I think that the consistency in what you're doing is huge too. You know, we always say if you post once, it's weird. If you post every day, it's normal, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
Jack, I love that. And I love seeing you out on social media. I'm like, if on LinkedIn, it's always like Jack, you know, one mutual follower, Jack, you. I'm like, oh, Jack, you know, but however, I appreciate you being on so much today. I know you added a ton of value. You gave a lot of simplistic steps that we can all really take today and implement immediately. Last thing to wrap up with, what are your goals, Jack, to wrap up 2022?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited. I started helping families again mid-year. So I'm hoping that, I can surpass what I've done before as far as production. On a monthly basis, we're right there. So it's exciting to be helping more families. From the team wise, I want to blow past the 2,000 families a month mark. And I'm taking the time when talking to agents to have more in-depth conversations, and it doesn't have to take more time. I noticed that for a few months, I was doing outreach to people, but maybe my mind was invested somewhere else, like trying to write business so much that I was having very abrupt conversations like, hey, we're Family First Life, we got the best commission, and we got the best commission, and we got leads, and it was very like robotic, and now I'm actually taking the time to slow it down a bit and have real conversations. And just like I do with my clients, take 1 minute, not 10, to make them feel special. Right? Build the rapport real quick so they know that they're talking to a real human being. And if we can get a laugh out of it, and make, respect each other from a distance, just like that, then the conversation seems to have to be so much more impactful. And then when we talk about all the advantages of Family First Life, then they're all ears, more so than if I just buzz right by it. Get to know these people. And I'm doing it on Saturday too, because, they say people are in a good mood on Saturday. They're home on a Saturday. They're more at leisure. They have more time to talk than if they're at work, right? And I didn't realize it for a long time. I kept thinking, yeah, they, no, me. I'm in a much better mood on Saturday. If I'm trying to do 100 appointments at one time and I'm like trying to call agents and it's like, I got to get to my next appointment. I'm like, hey, we're Family First Life. On a Saturday, I'm like, I'm kicking back. I'm like, hey, this is great.
Right.
So.
More time to really just lean in, hone in, and kind of, like you said, slow it down. I know that I had to implement that too, but I'm super excited to see, your team growing and, you out there helping a bunch of families as well. As just extremely inspiring, Jack. I want you to know that. And, slow down, get to know the person and take it from there. So I appreciate you, Jack. I can't wait to see you at convention this year. And thank you so much for being on with us today.
Thanks, Marissa. Thanks, Christina. Thanks, everybody.
Take care.